Hello, everyone. The tech wasn't working on my back end, so I apologize for whatever you saw or didn't see while I was trying to go live. I'm Annie Brock, founder and CEO of the Leader Transition Institute. I'm grateful you're here with me today for our December 2025 Learn, Do, Grow, Repeat. As we come to the end of the year, many of us naturally start looking back. We think about what this past year held, what we accomplished, what didn't happen, what we're proud of, and what still feels unresolved. That kind of reflection is part of this season, and it has value. But today, I want to slow that process down and widen it a bit. Instead of evaluating only the last 12 months, I want us to consider the longer arc of our lives, how we're showing up over time, and what we're shaping without always realizing it. Because moments like this, when we're already reflecting, can be a meaningful opportunity to step back and think more deeply. When we're no longer here, every one of us will be remembered by someone. Not forever, not by everyone, but by someone. That's part of being human. We don't live in isolation. Our lives intersect with others at work, at home, in our communities. And whether we intend to or not, we leave an impression. We leave a trace. We leave something behind in the people who shared space and time with us. To be human is to be remembered. And yes, that includes our furries too. So the question isn't whether we'll leave a legacy. The question is whether we'll leave one on purpose. Because there's a big difference between living life on autopilot and living it intentionally. That difference, that choice, is the pivot point. Legacy isn't something you create at the end of your life. You're building it right now. I once received a framed quote that said, "We shape our lives not with what we carry with us, but with what we leave behind." I didn't receive that because of a title I had. I received it because of how I showed up when it mattered. You build your legacy in the small daily choices most people never see. In your habits, in how you act when no one's watching, in how you treat people when it would be easier not to care. You build it in your integrity when there's no audience, how seriously you take your commitments, the way you show up or don't for the people around you, and how you respond when life doesn't go according to plan. That's where legacy lives. When people hear the word legacy, they usually picture something big. Buildings with names on them, books written, awards earned, a highlight reel. And because of that, a lot of people quietly opt out of the conversation. They think, I'm not a CEO. I haven't invented anything. I'm too young to worry about that. So legacy becomes something for other people, the famous, the wealthy, the extraordinary. But for most of us, legacy is much quieter than that. It's not an event. It's a resonance. Legacy shows up in questions like, how safe did people feel around you? Did they feel heard or dismissed? Did you make space for others or take up all the oxygen? When things got tense, did you bring calm or more chaos? Legacy lives in how people felt after being with you. Long after resumes stop mattering, long after titles fade, long after no one remembers what you did for a living, what remains is how it felt to be in your presence. That's legacy. It's not the accomplishments, it's the character. It's the emotional residue you leave behind. And here's the part we don't always like to admit. No one accidentally leaves a life-giving legacy. When I think about legacy, I often think about Viktor Frankl. He survived the Holocaust, lost nearly everything, and endured conditions most of us can't begin to imagine. And yet, what he's remembered for isn't just survival, it's meaning. Frankl wrote that when everything is taken from a person, they still have the freedom to choose their response. That idea has outlived him, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. His legacy wasn't built on what he possessed or controlled. It was built on the humanity he chose to hold onto when it would have been easier to let go. Most of us won't face circumstances like that, but we do face choices every day. And for most of us, autopilot is the default. Without intention, we slide into busyness, mistaking motion for meaning. We slip into survival mode, letting stress and exhaustion call the shots. We react rather than choose, responding to life rather than shaping it. And we let what's urgent crowd out what actually matters. Living this way doesn't require courage. It doesn't require clarity. It just happens. But living this way doesn't take us where we hope to go. Legacy requires intention. It requires slowing down enough to ask questions most people avoid. What actually matters to me? What kind of person am I becoming? How do people experience me? If nothing changed, would I be proud of the way I'm living, of the life I'm living? These aren't someday questions. They're now questions, and they're the starting point for an intentional life. I want to slow us down for a minute because when we talk about legacy, it's easy to stay up here in ideas, concepts, big picture thinking. But legacy isn't abstract, it's personal. So I'm going to ask you to imagine something with me. And if it feels a little uncomfortable, that's okay. Discomfort usually means we're paying attention. I want you to imagine a day when you're no longer here. There's a room filled with people who knew you. Not just from one season of your life, but different chapters. Family, friends, a coworker from years ago, someone you mentored, someone who watched how you lived, even if you didn't realize it. And someone stands up to speak. They're not going to list your job titles. They won't talk about how busy you were. They won't run through your resume. They'll talk about you, about how it felt to know you, about who you were when the pressure was off, about what you brought into their life. I want you to ask yourself quietly, not with judgment, just honesty. What would I hope they say? Not what sounds good, not what you think you should want them to say. What would you truly hope to hear? Maybe it's something like, they made it feel safe to just be myself. And because they trusted me first, I eventually learned how to trust myself. Or they were there, really there. Not just checking a box, but showing up again and again, especially when things were falling apart. Or perhaps they lived with this quiet, stubborn honesty. You never had to guess where they stood. And maybe, if we're being honest, perhaps you're a little worried that the words might be too thin for our liking. Polite, kind, but vague. They worked hard. They were busy. They meant well. I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying it because moments like this, even imagined ones, have a way of clarifying things. They help us see the gap between the life we're living and the life we want to be remembered for. And clarity is a gift. Here's the good news. Legacy is not built in grand moments. It's not built on speeches, awards, or once-in-a-lifetime accomplishments. It's built in ordinary moments, repeated over time. Legacy is built when you choose patience instead of control. You apologize instead of defending. You listen instead of fixing. You celebrate someone else's win without comparison. You show up when it would be easier to disappear. These aren't Instagram moments. No one claps for them and they don't make headlines. Legacy is built in kitchens, in hallways, in meetings, in quiet conversations that no one else ever hears about. And the thing I want you to hear clearly is this. You do not have to wait. You don't have to wait until things calm down. You don't have to wait until you feel more confident. You don't have to wait until the next chapter starts. Legacy isn't something you earn after you arrive. It's something you practice right where you are. There's something else we don't talk enough about. You cannot create a meaningful legacy if your entire identity is wrapped up in your roles. We're really good at defining ourselves by what we do. Our job, our position, our responsibilities, the people who rely on us. Those roles matter. They're important, but they're not who you are. Because roles change. Careers end. Titles go away. Seasons shift. Uniforms come off. And if your sense of self disappears when that happens, legacy becomes fragile. Legacy isn't tied to what you did. It's tied to who you were while you were doing it. Your values, your character, your presence, your courage, your compassion. Those things don't retire. They don't expire. They follow you into every room, every season, every chapter. Now, every one of us has inherited something. Some of us inherited love and stability. Others inherited silence, pressure, or patterns that didn't serve us. Legacy isn't pretending those things didn't shape us. It's deciding what continues through us and what stops with us. You get to decide which patterns you repeat, which ones you interrupt, what values you reinforce, and what story gets told next. That choice isn't made once, it's made daily. One of the simplest and most honest ways to think about legacy is this. How do people feel about themselves after being around you? Do they feel steadier or smaller? More hopeful or drained? More capable or doubting? More seen or overlooked? You may never know the full impact of a kind word, or a moment of belief, or your decision to stay present when it would have been easier to check out. But those moments add up, and one day they tell your story. Here's the truth. Your legacy is being created today. Not someday, not later, not when things slow down, today. And the question isn't, will I leave a legacy? The question is the way I'm living aligned with the person I want to be remembered as? So instead of asking, what do I want to leave behind? Try asking, what do I want to live into? Because legacy isn't about death, it's about life. A life lived with intention, with integrity, with courage, with compassion. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, just honestly. So my invitation to you is simple. Don't wait for a wake-up call. Don't wait for a transition or a loss or a moment that forces reflection. Start now. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? What small choice needs to shift? What legacy am I creating with the life I'm living today? Because the most meaningful legacy isn't something you leave behind. It's something you live, one ordinary, intentional day at a time. And the good news? You still have time. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Legacy isn't something we figure out all at once. It's shaped in small, everyday choices over time. If something I've said today stirred a question for you or made you pause, I'd genuinely love to hear from you. You don't need to have clarity. Sometimes naming the question is the first step. And if this resonated with you, I hope you'll join me again on January 27th for our next session, Time Well Spent, Managing Life with Purpose. We'll build on what I've shared today about legacy and talk about how we make intentional choices with the time we have. Not perfectly, but thoughtfully. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm grateful that you've been here, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Happy holidays!